Hello and welcome to another video, Pokemaster Andrew, and today you will be learning how to build an awesome beginner oak house, like so, and I'll be teaching you lots of techniques I used in this house to make it look awesome. Let's get started. So, disclaimer, this is not going to be a block-by-block tutorial. I do not favor those at all, because I think if you learn the techniques that someone used to build their houses and their structures all together, you will be a lot better off than if you build it block by block. Because now, if you, like I'm doing it, if you learn how to use the techniques and the tricks, you will actually get creative and build your own builds with those techniques. And I'm very excited to see what you come up with to build. But yeah, let's get started. In the front here, so the overhang, as you can see, is a very important part of this build because it gives it that little something that makes it unique. Like, if I didn't have this, it would look like one of those normal medieval types of builds that are just typical for every builder. But with this overhang, which I don't actually usually see that much, which is actually a bummer because it looks quite nice. But yeah, enough talk. Let's get into the good stuff. So what I did was here, just two oak stairs that are parallel to each other. Here, oak stairs that are opposite from each other, and the rest is just four oak planks. And down here, I added two stairs to just add it some depth, make it fit into the build a little more. Just fit it into the style that I went here with lots of stairs and depth. It looks good. It's not over detailed yet, but it's getting close. Obviously, it's held up by oak stairs, oak fences, and yeah, that's that. So you may notice, or have already noticed, I did use birch wood in this build. As you can see, you can actually find birch wood in the forest biome, but I like to make limits on stuff like this. For example, you can't use four different types of wood, because then it will just look like a mistake. It won't look good. It'll look like you just mixed up a bunch of stuff and started building. Well, my limit is 3 different types of wood. That should be enough. Here I use 2 different types, oak and birch. You can go, you can do whatever you want, but obviously I don't like seeing builds with acacia, jungle, oak, birch, spruce, dark oak, and all that stuff mixed together. It just doesn't look good. Obviously, you have to pick the type of wood that fits to the biome. Here I have a simple forest biome. Birch and oak fits well to that. Next thing I want to point out is, the frame. Completely out of oak wood. I added 2 frames, this bigger one and then the inner one, which just makes up most of the roof. Now, before I get into the roof and all that complicated stuff, I just wanted to do the front because obviously it's the easiest to understand. And it's the first thing you see, so it's also the most important. So down here, I added the simple style, where it shows the oak log texture here, the top of it. I used this in lots of builds at the front. It kind of shows you that you can use different types, like different parts of your blocks to your advantage. Like so, you'll see lots of this in my builds. Yeah, what I did is I just put up 2 blocks and then the oak wood facing your direction. So yeah, that's a pretty nice thing I used. It's a basic building technique that you should learn pretty early to really get the advantages of your blocks and using them in completely different ways than they were meant to be. This is very basic. It's not that big of a surprise, but yeah, I did it over here too. I added 2 oak stairs facing up and facing down on each side, and yeah, that's that. On the inside now, I just added 2 stairs facing up, Then two oak log parallel to the ground, and two oak logs parallel to each other, and then another one parallel to the ground. The torches you can place wherever you want. There's no real way to place them. I just like to place them where you would, like, if you actually see a house like this in real life, where would you find torches? I mean, obviously, it's different in real life because you don't have to fend off monsters and stuff, but here, I just added one on top of the door, like you see in lots of places. I didn't do it on the sides, which I usually do, but because of the fence posts. But yeah, it looks quite fine. Let's move on to the sides. Wait, no. Before I move on to the sides, I wanted to show you one more thing. These just, you may be wondering why I added these stairs and these extra features here. It's because you don't want your build to just be a square. It doesn't look good. This adds depth. It makes it not endless, no endless flat surfaces that just look like, I don't know, a block in Minecraft like this. It actually adds some depth into it and makes it a little bit of a different shape than you would expect from a normal house. Now, from the look of this house altogether, you might think it looks intermediate, or even maybe if you're unexperienced, it may even look hard. But I can reassure you that most of this is actually basic beginner building techniques that you should learn at an early state in your Minecraft building, because they are really building fundamentals, like adding depth with stairs, or I don't know, just adding depth with anything, basically. Those are one of the most important things you have to learn, and if you don't learn them fast, then your building is going to stay endless flat surfaces for a long time. Believe me, I know, because it was like that for me. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Let's move on to the sides, which are both the same. So what I did here was I just used glass panes to make like a boat shape of a window. The shape doesn't really matter. I just used boat because it fit quite well to the size of the build, and I just didn't want it to look completely square. Obviously, it would make a little more sense to make it kind of turn around more like an arch, but I want it to look different than different houses, so this should work quite well. Next thing you might notice is these holes here I added. I didn't really add those on purpose. Actually, I wanted the oak stairs to face in your direction, but that added a problem with the panes that didn't connect properly, which was a problem. So I actually should have known that. I didn't know it. I just didn't think of it at the time. So I made them facing in opposite directions towards the frame and added those, the trapdoors, if you haven't noticed yet. I added those because without a trapdoor, it would look like a rundown house. It would look literally like a hole in the wall. If you add the trapdoor, which kind of adds like a outline or whatever you want to call that into the hole, it makes it feel like it was meant to be there. Like I actually built that there, which I did obviously, but yeah, it makes you really understand what is in the build, like that it's supposed to be like that. Otherwise, it would be like, there's a hole in the wall, unprofessional. But yeah, when you're intermediate, you really want to be able to build. That's another intermediate building technique I use in this, building around the structure you already built. You actually want to, if you make a mistake, you don't want to restart the whole build completely. Sorry, I'm me stumbling over my words. You actually want to build around those mistakes to make them look good. That's what I did here. I didn't just add a block. I made it look better than it did before, even though it's still the mistake. You can see it. It just doesn't look like one. So yeah, that's for those. They look exactly the same, both of them, if you haven't noticed yet. 2 oak stairs here, and then some birch slabs, and yeah, the birch thing here. Now let's move on to the back. So the back, there isn't much to say about this because it's fairly simple. I just added a birch pillar here out of birch planks. Then 2 oak stairs on top of each other, facing up and facing down. Down here, just oak planks. So there's not much to say about that. Now, the final stage of the construction of my house was, about the outside, was the roof. Excuse me. This was very difficult to build because, well, the building wasn't difficult, but it was difficult to make a beginner kind of style, but not a flat surface. You know, it was very hard to do this. Very, very difficult. I struggled a lot with this. It took me a while, but eventually I came up with something that looks fairly good. I didn't succeed it completely because it still sort of looks like an intermediate build that way, but I hope it's pretty easy to follow. So here is where I use most of the intermediate building styles. For example, here I put pillars. You'll see lots of pillars in the roof. I added the slab on top to make you not see this texture, like here where I meant to put it there. I didn't want you to see it here. It needed to look like you know, a roof. If you see log textures on it, it's not a roof. It looks like a tree that got cut off or something. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But yeah, here I just added oak slabs on the corners and then birch wood, kind of like a birch plank arch, if that makes any sense. And here, oak stairs, like 3, and then the pillar in the middle, which really makes it that is also a very important thing. Like, if you don't want the roof to be completely slanted, you want to add something like this here. If you're building a normal build, you don't want to have anything like this. If you want to build like a normal house, you know, like you see with bricks and stuff, like red brick houses, you put a chimney here instead of like a oak pillar. But yeah, I think I'm done with the roof. Wait, no, the flag, and I wanted to say this is also an intermediate building thing. But yeah, I think it's actually a good practice for beginners to get to know some of the intermediate building techniques, because if they do that at an early stage, they'll understand it better, and it won't be as hard to learn intermediate styles. It won't be as hard, and this really lets your building style build up. So yeah, don't worry about that shouldn't be hard to understand. It would take a while to learn where to implement things, but yeah. This is just it's kind of adding a different texture to a block, but still having some of the texture there. This makes you recognize the block, but it gives a little more, you know, it's a little different. It just makes it look different than the other side, the other parts of it. Like here, you can still recognize that it's birch, but these trapdoors just make it look a little more, you know, it peps it up a little. Yeah. So I think that's it for the roof. I'm going to do the flag now. So you might be wondering if you're a very early beginner. Well, you won't be wondering because it looks a lot better this way. But some people may make a flag like this. But that is not good because it doesn't even look like a flag this way. It looks like, I don't even know what it looks like, but this is how I see lots and lots of people making this mistake, and it's not necessary at all, because if you want your build to look real and lively, you need to add all sorts of different parts with depth in it. It's hard to explain. I'll show you, because if you add depth into the back of the flag, actually, I'm going to do that. Sorry about that. If you actually add depth into this flag now, like this, like so, it'll actually look like a billowing flag in the wind. If you space it one back there, it looks like it's actually billowing. You know what I mean? It adds a lot to your build that it's easy to do, and it makes it double as good. Like, seriously, I can guarantee you your build will look twice as good if you add stuff like this with the depth as well as here, the stairs. It just makes it look a lot better. The other way, it just burns your eyes. It just doesn't look good. Lots of people make this mistake. It's sad, but it's true. You may be one of them. Don't feel like I'm trying to be mean or anything. I'm just saying it looks a lot better this way, and you should do it this way, and you should learn how to do it that way. I may make a tutorial on flags in the future, but today we are focusing on this. So let's get into the inside. The inside also supposed to be simple. Lots of this you may actually do differently and may want to do differently in a survival world because this was built in creative. It's really hard to build a survival house in creative because your survival inventory is kind of left over to chance with the materials you have. So you can't some of this you won't be able to build. Like, you don't want to build this in survival. You don't want a desk unless you really badly want to impress people. But if you are building a legit survival house, you really want space for all your important stuff. So building a desk, I wouldn't advise something like this. It may look a little bit intermediate, but it's supposed to be simple. But yeah, I don't want you to do this anyway, because if you want space for your enchantment tables and other things such as that, you won't want to build this. You just won't. It's just hard. It's just hard to do this unless you have a ginormous build. You can add as many desks as you want, but in this house, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I just added it because this is actually a creative build. It just didn't. When you're in creative, you just want to build as much as you can and make it as good as you can. In survival, you want to make it function well. You know what I mean? But yeah, I added some depth into the floor. Obviously, you don't do this a lot in creative. I keep on mixing up the game modes, but you don't do this a lot in survival because you want to add stuff here, like maybe some carpet or something. But I basically add depth into every floor I make, even if it's just a tiny bit, like so. But yeah, let's get to the ceiling. So what I did here, I added an arch out of oak stairs here and birch slabs up here. This is one of those things that you don't have to do, and sometimes you shouldn't do them because you want space for other things that are important for your build, like lighting and such. It just won't look as it just doesn't look as good without it. But yeah, with that in mind, we can actually almost end the video. I just wanted to say one more thing about glass panes. So I know they can be a pain a lot. They can be very painful. Excuse the pun, but they are very painful and they can be a pain a lot while building. You place them wrong, then they go in there, and then you have to break them with a silk touch pickaxe, and if you don't have some, you waste it. It's really hard to do this clean. But if you're building small windows like this, really, I advise you need to use glass panes for this. It just looks so much better. It's like the flag. It doubles the look of your build. Just if you want to make them out of glass blocks, do so if you want. They just don't look as good and don't add any depth whatsoever. But with that in mind, let's continue to the end. That's a weird thing to say, continue to the end. Oh wait, one last thing. If you build like statues or any other structures that are out of glass, like I said in the other video, actually you should don't use panes. Like, if someone ever tells you always use panes, it's wrong. Just use panes for windows. Use glass blocks for statues or whatever else you build, domes and stuff. Use glass blocks. It's way harder to build stuff like that out of panes, and you will have to use glass blocks in it anyway. So don't even bother wasting some extra materials to make panes. Now, I think that is just about it for this video. So let me know how you liked it. If you did, leave a like if you want, and subscribe if you want. And I hope you have a nice day. Goodbye.